Shameem Saidoo, your host, and with me, Yousouf Neetoo. For this edition of Voices from Acudemy, we are pleased to welcome Tim Mitchell, our partner trainer. Hi, Tim, and happy to have you with us today.
It's really good to be here. I just love the idea of these podcasts. Really, really good.
As we previously announced, each session will be covering topics in relation to adult education. For our podcast today, we'll be discussing a few topics around social media and communication.
Sounds like a plan to me.
So, first thing first, Tim, let us introduce Tim Mitchell to our listeners, and please give us an overview of Upperhand.
Well, Upperhand Digital, well, maybe I ought to sort of go back, first of all, how it all started. And that was when I was 14 years old. And you doing this podcast has kind of reminded me how it all kind of really began. And that was when I was 14, I joined a hospital radio station, providing radio programs for patients in our local hospital. And I really enjoyed it. And that idea of going to a studio, it's a bit like the Star Trek Enterprise with all the buttons, the lights and everything like that. And that really got me interested in doing content, doing radio programs and speaking to people. And from starting our hospital radio all those years ago, I went on to become a journalist, trained as a journalist. And I, back in about 1994, began working for local stations and newspapers. And to kind of cut a very long story short, I've been doing this sort of thing, content, ever since. I know the technology has changed. So what I started back in when I was 14, I'll now do for Upperhand Digital, basically. Do you want to know more of the career history? Would that be of interest?
Yes, why not?
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, just to kind of go back. So there I was, just coming out of university, at the University for the Creative Arts, having this journalism degree, and went on to do this freelance radio stuff and journalism stuff with local papers. And that didn't pay very well, if we're honest, with freelance stuff at the time. And a friend of mine was working for the UK government for DEFRA, the predecessor to DEFRA. And I eventually started to use my journalism skills and marketing skills for the UK government. And I worked on really big stories at the time. These are the same bit of the government that's working on coronavirus at the moment. So I was working with scientists on the marketing and communication side on diseases like, do you remember bovine spongia fever? Well, BSE, do you remember that? Mad cow disease, and foot and mouth disease and avian flu, all those big stories that hit our headlines, which really were of a huge concern. So I was the chap, part of the media team, dealing with members of the press, the media. So when the BBC turned up at the gates to do a report, I was the one saying, well, actually, you can't talk to our scientists because they're doing this, and these are the facts and all that sort of stuff. So it was really interesting, kind of managing the crisis and seeing it from, a different, not from a kind of, what do they say, poacher come gamekeeper, but, from a government kind of point of view, trying to get the stories out to these media organisations. So I did a lot of that marketing and communications for the UK government for about 15 years. And then after that time, I got I wanted to have a change of direction, and digital marketing and websites were really just coming in. This was around about 2008, 2009. And a friend of mine has set up a business selling, would you believe, jigsaw puzzles from his back bedroom. And it was a really successful business. And he asked me to join him as the marketing manager. And we were taking around about £20,000 a day through our website. So that's a lot of jigsaw a day.
That's in busy time.
Imagine each jigsaw puzzle is worth about £10 or so. So there's a lot of orders we were getting out of the door, and we were doing really cutting edge stuff with SEO, pay per click, all really new and very exciting as well as it was. And one of the areas that really helped us was building up a an email marketing list of our customers, and we had around about 50,000 subscribers to our marketing database.
Wow.
Which is great. Yeah, so great during kind of more kind of normal times. If we needed to get a few more orders in, when people aren't doing jigsaw puzzles, we were able to send out a kind of like a chatty newsletter to our customer database, and you could see the actual orders used to triple after we sent out these newsletters. So it was really very exciting stuff with digital marketing, and that's got me more interested in that kind of field. And I left my friend's business and joined a smaller marketing agency, and then set up my own business, Upperhand Digital, 6 years ago, doing the same sort of thing, really, helping generally smaller businesses with their marketing and their communications. And increasingly through that, people have been asking me to do training, which I never really thought of doing when I set up the business. But that's what I've been doing, more corporate training recently. Last year I was out in Oman doing training for a global corporation there. It was a 3-day course I did on marketing and communications and PR for them. Done lots of stuff with LinkedIn, training to help organizations. And actually kind of managing, I still enjoy the hands-on stuff. I can't get away from that. And with Upperhand Digital, I kind of help smaller businesses with their marketing, as I say. One of our clients, I've got them in to work with big organisations like Heathrow and Lloyd's of London and the NHS and so on. So it's a kind of a mixture of corporate training and also hands-on marketing as well. It's a good time. So we're not being too affected by the pandemic, thankfully. We had one client that put us on hold, but they've come back to us. They actually physically couldn't do their job. They do, would you believe, cat grooming. There's a big market round our way for people to have their cats groomed.
Cats.
Yeah, exactly. And she just couldn't, who knew? But yeah, the lady I've been working with, Jan, hadn't been able to do it, but she's now started to do grooming her cats again, and using the full PPE stuff. So she's come back to me. So we've been pretty lucky. We've taken on four new clients. Been doing lots of kind of webinars and training for different organisations. In fact, where I am now, I am sitting in my living room, and I delivered a webinar to 250 people, would you believe, in my living room, which is rather bizarre experience.
Experience-wise.
Well,
how was the feedback for that session?
Well, it was very odd because nobody was, the way it was set up, the webinar, there was no interaction. There were too many kind of microphones to kind of unmute. So all the questions came to at the end. So it was quite an hour's worth of questions. It was quite full on. But great experience. I think we're looking to repeat that. But so odd. It's just talking to like a green light on my computer, and yet all these people were listening and
tuning in.
Yeah, tuning in as well.
Just going back, Tim. So Upperhand Digital, you're saying it's the 6 years right now. 6 years trading. How's the journey been?
As probably with all businesses, it's been up and down. And I should think for the first 2 or 3 years, my wife said I ought to get a proper job.
A job.
Stop mucking around on the computer, she said. But I've always wanted to run my own business, and I always liked the idea of working with lots of different people and organisations. And I think it really is only fairly recently she said, okay, you don't need to get a proper job at the moment, but it has had its ups and downs. Cash flow, as with all small businesses, is always an issue. When people don't pay on time. It does, and can be very stressful now. And when I started the business, my wife wasn't working because we just had another baby. So it was pretty hair-raising at times, but we managed to get through it. And my wife's working as well part-time, which helps. So yeah, it's all good. I just feel sorry for people who are working full-time, maybe who've been put on furlough at the moment. Not sure about the jobs, what they're going to do. I feel in quite a very, in a fortunate position at the moment.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been in our lives for around 3 months now. How business has been affected with COVID-19, and what has Upperhand changed or altered during this pandemic?
Yes, I mean it's been a real worry, and the way I didn't know how it was going to go, and thankfully all of my clients, the regular ones, they all got in contact to say, actually, we're going to continue working with you, Tim, which was a huge relief, I have to say. What I did, and this has been a couple of good things that have come out of it from my point of view, is that I reconnected with people that I met years and years ago, just to say, how are you? Is it worth catching up and all that sort of stuff? And as a result of that, all those reconnections, I've managed to get some kind of work coming as well. And I've tried to also up my own personal presence on social media platforms, particularly LinkedIn. That's where I think most of my prospects hang out, so to speak. So I've been doing more videos, and I'm trying to do one video sharing tips, once a week. It's quite. I'm getting there. It's not a natural thing for me, I have to say. But I think it does. Having videos, I think, just helps build up that relationship. People can sort of see what you're like. You attract the right people. And actually, just thinking about, I did one yesterday, and I've had 2 people have just got in contact with me asking me to help them with their marketing as well. So, I would recommend doing short videos on a regular basis. It's daunting, but you do get used to it. Although I'm still trying to get used to it myself.
Practice makes perfect, Tim.
Indeed, that's true.
One question, you mentioned that you're obviously doing these videos. Why LinkedIn for you? Because obviously there's various social media platforms out there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be on every single social media platform. I think it's better to concentrate on the main ones. When I started my business, I found that most people were using LinkedIn that I needed to connect with, and I've kind of stuck with it, and it's proved that way over the years. That's not to say with other clients, and indeed myself, we do stuff on Facebook and Twitter, but LinkedIn seems to be the place for me to kind of find people to connect with and build those connections and build those relationships.
So there's more engagement, essentially.
There is, exactly. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and you can take the conversations away from LinkedIn as well once you kind of meet people. I just like the idea. I mean, with the one of my clients, the ones I've got in with Heathrow and Lloyd's of London and NHS. Just to give you a background about them, they are a sign language school, and the lady who runs it is deaf. So I act as her. They call it communication support worker. So I'm allowed to get in contact through LinkedIn on her behalf. And instead of it, you can get past with LinkedIn, particularly, you can get past the gatekeepers and actually talk to people who you might want to do business with, and that has proved a very successful strategy for her. But every business and every organisation is different. It just depends where your customers, where your prospects are hanging out. But for Upperhand Digital, certainly LinkedIn has been the place that works, in my view.
Excellent. And just obviously on the COVID situation, so have you, I assume prior to this pandemic, you were doing more classroom-based training.
That's right. And that's exactly it. Just before we were all kind of locked up, I was doing a lot of going, kind of meeting people, flying over to Oman, did a lot of stuff with banks, high street banks, actually kind of meeting people. And I really do enjoy that, going and talking to people and meeting them in real life. Video has, I mean, I don't know what we would have done without video and these kind of interactions like this 15 years ago. I think with doing things live, you can get people's reactions in real time. And like this conversation now, I can't see you could be getting up and having a coffee at the moment or whatever. You kind of miss those kind of side conversations if you're not doing it. Not doing live training. So I'm just thinking about the future, and maybe it will be a mixture of live training and also this kind of hybrid way of doing things. Mixture of digital and training.
Blended learning.
Blended learning is called it. You're right.
Yeah.
Social media is playing a major role during our current time, Tim. What do you think businesses should be doing with social media during COVID-19?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Interesting. I did some research in March when COVID was just happening, really kicking in, and I came across a research actually done by another agency, and they found that people on Twitter, Facebook, Mumsnet were talking about the word community. In fact, the number of mentions went up by 82% just in that month, the word community. And I guess that makes sense because it's all about human nature is to be in a tribe, be in groups. And I think at the moment, businesses need to build their communities, build their groups. And I think it doesn't, for me, it doesn't feel like the right time for selling, but just to build the group, get in contact with people as I've done, and share value, share kindness, and people will remember that. I mean, you probably know about Boots. They have been opening up their consultation rooms for victims of domestic abuse, so that if somebody is in one of those, is being domestically abused, they can go to a private place and ring a confidential phone number in private, away from their dire home situation. And that's what business is going to be remembered for, is being kind, sharing value, building these communities, just being there for people. And I mean, how about Joe Wicks? He's the body coach. I've not done any of his workouts or anything, but off the back of him doing these regular body workouts, he's now got a £1 million publishing deal. Plus, I should think all his other recipe books and all the rest of that will, interest will increase. So just be there for, to just be there and build that community, show kindness, show up on a regular basis. And if you do get criticism, we saw this really bad example was Virgin Atlantic. Do you remember this? Beginning of March, there was all the stuff over social media saying that Virgin would not pay their staff for 8 weeks, I think it was. And there was huge outcry on social media, loads of negative comments, lots of criticism of Richard Branson. And Richard Branson and Virgin, in my view, handled the situation really badly. They didn't respond straight away. In fact, it took them, about a week or so to kind of actually deal with the criticism. And by that time, I think their brand had already and has been damaged because they didn't deal with the criticism. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I've seen it again with Virgin Media. Actually, they're putting up posts or videos saying, "Oh, it's good to connect," but I'm seeing all this negative criticism. But what they're doing there is trying to take the conversation, quite rightly, away from these social media platforms and trying to make the conversations private. Much better that way, and just to kind of ask the stats, trying to get things away from social media posts. But yeah, so to be kind of active on there, deal with criticism, share kindness, keep building the communications, those sorts of things. Not the time, I don't think, for direct selling.
Tim, one question that you, one point that you raised was about community on social media. What would you say? How does a company or a business or individual build and manage their social media community, and why is it important for marketing?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of touched on those areas at the moment. People aren't ready to be sold to, but if you've already got a social media community, people already like you. Generally, you've already built a relationship with them, and it's much easier to sell to people, if you like, or market to people if they know you, if they are part of your community. So, my suggestion would be to keep expanding that community with the new connections, as I've done. Back to the content, sharing kindness, sharing useful information, engaging with that community. And people will remember you, because even if they're not ready to buy straight away, or they're not going to forget that when they are ready to get in contact, buy or use your services, you're going to be in the front of their mind. So, I say my advice is just to kind of build that community up.
Sure, and have that positive impact that they'll essentially remember you.
They will remember you, exactly.
Time is right.
Yeah, another example, we talked about Joe Wicks, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, every Friday evening, the singer. Mm-hmm. She's been singing and she's been singing her songs or at least she did until last week, in a kitchen. It's just she's building this community up on Instagram, I think it is, and people are going to remember that, and that must have a knock-on effect for her sales eventually as well. Certainly making me want to play her records.
Positive impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned Sophie Ellis-Bextor, Tim. Well, it was like I would say I love her song like 15, 20 years back. Yeah.
And okay, it might be a bit more now. But yeah, it just reminds, doesn't it? It's just she just reminds me.
Nostalgic, I would say. Yeah, nostalgic. Yeah.
I feel so old now, guys. I have to say. I thought I was quite with it.
Same, yeah.
Still young, Tim. Still young.
Thank you very much. The hair went a long time ago, unfortunately.
We are hearing this every time, and mostly with real-life information update on social media. Here we will be referring to crisis communication. Tim, what do you advise our listeners on how to deal with both positive and negative communication through social media?
Yeah, again, we kind of mentioned this before, but you need to just be. You've got to be, I think, on social media all the time. You've got to I would set up alerts for your own business, monitor what's going on, not only dimensions for your own business, but have a look at your competitors, what your industry are doing, and be ready to engage with your audience on social media. I mentioned about Richard Branson. If they perhaps dealt with the situation before a lot quicker, then maybe the impact wouldn't have been so negative on them. But it's just to be aware of what's going on, deal with the situation, and yeah, there's no. I mean, we talked about the negative side of it, but also share good things as well. Share things and personal stories. That's always good for getting engagement. Personal stories we touched on, but just to get your brand noticed, stand out as much as you can, blow your own trumpet as well. Why not? And other people as well.
So if there was a major crisis, for instance, in a business, for example, obviously, with the current situation, this is pretty much a crisis for most businesses. How could you spin this into a positive way? Is probably a good thought from your point of view for listeners out there.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think there are going to be some businesses, sadly, which won't survive. But the ones that will are the ones that are going to adapt. Around my way, I know that there are suppliers to restaurants supplying, kind of fruit and veg and so on. They're now supplying to kind of residents as well. So I think people need to adapt their businesses and tell people that they have adapted their business as well. Make the story personal, and I think people can do very well. Try and get positive angle, and try and adapt your business as well if you can. It's not always not easy for every business, I know, but just try and look for these new opportunities. See how you can be a bit more creative with your messages and how you market your business.
Yeah, I think that's key in this current situation to adapt and essentially evolve and be creative, as you mentioned, Tim. Very good point.
Absolutely. See what other people are doing. See if you can, not copy them, but just adapt your marketing and your business to what other people are doing successfully. You might, you just don't know. Things could open up new opportunities.
Today, businesses are in a battle of brand recognition or brand awareness, we can say. Question is how to get your brand noticed on social media.
Well, I think video has to be the way to go at the moment. Sharing important information, but also, again, as I mentioned, people like to hear personal stories. They do. When I put a post on, in fact, I put a post up about my young daughter setting up her own business. She's only 8. She wanted to make, she's selling homemade cards to the family for £5 a go, would you believe? Which is going to get very expensive. And she's actually set up a website, which isn't found. But all those kind of stories like that, people love all that kind of information. It helps build the relationship. So if you can find a personal angle, using video is a great way of building that relationship with prospects. Be creative, be fun, share value, share tips. Try and give a reason for people to come back and visit your brand, your social media presence, and also to do it consistently as well. That's really is the big key. Show up on a regular basis, if you can, every day, but 2 or 3 times a week. It doesn't just have to be videos or wordy blogs. It could be, sometimes I put up quotes myself just to try and raise brand awareness. And people, it just helps keeps your business in front of their mind, so that when people are ready to, as we said before, when people are ready to use your services, they remember you and use you rather than anybody else.
Tim, you mentioned video. Now, What would you say, or what would you suggest is a good length for video, and what sort of content should I be recording, for example?
Yeah, very good question. this is through testing myself over the last few weeks, but I found that the videos of which are very short, like 30 seconds, seem to do very well, and also videos which ask a question as well, because you want to try and build that engagement up. And yeah, sometimes I just put personal stories up, but I try and include these useful tips. Anything that brings value to to your audience. And it doesn't have to be, I don't think it has to be particularly polished, but I would suggest I would suggest trying to get subtitles in there or putting a transcript, because some people might not be able to hear the sound for whatever reason, maybe because they're profoundly deaf or they got noisy children in the background. Yeah.
In terms of when it comes to the videos itself as well, should we be selling? Do you think on social media, as in selling my products, should I be doing videos about this is what I do, this is what I'm good at? What's the common what would you say feedback on when it comes to being sold to?
I think you're absolutely right. We need to. It's got to be. There's got to be a sales message in there somewhere. So my kind of rule is that I try and do a couple of not just video posts, but posts on kind of like personal stories, just to try and get. Just to kind of build the interest. Maybe I'll do something of value as well, sharing some tips, and then so this is like every week, and then I will just kind of put up a post saying, well, this is what I do. If you're interested, get in contact with me. I'm not trying to push the sales side too much, and that seems to be
working well.
That seems to work. Yeah, that seems to be working. I mean, I must admit, I did put up a post a couple of weeks ago saying I can help with your marketing and training and so on, and it's kind of hard to measure. It wasn't as successful, that post, as putting out a post on LinkedIn saying, well, this is what I do, get in contact. Like all these things, you're going to have to test it and tweak it all the time.
So yeah, that's I think that's one thing with marketing, is that it's always continuous. So you would need to always tweak and improve. And do you look at historic posts and see what the engagement like?
I do, exactly. I all the time, and I also see who looks at my profile as well. I don't think that really tells me anything at all. It tells me how many people have looked at my post on my profile, but I don't know. They might already know me. I don't think it helps at all. That I think it's more of a vanity thing from my point of view. Okay. But yes, certainly the number of views I get on posts I look at, and it's always the personal posts which gets more interest and more interaction. And I remember even before the lockdown, if I had coffee with somebody, I put a picture up on social media of me having coffee with somebody, and that always used to get more engagement and more views than me putting up a very, a thought-provoking piece. But there you go.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is a mixture of, I think, having some personal posts, sharing value, some tips, having the call to actions as well, and then doing this on a regular basis.
How often would you say would need to interact and post on social media? Is there a proven method, or?
It depends on people's own time, on their business as well. I think if you can show up every day, posting something every day, or at least 5 times a week, that's ideal. But I mean, not everybody's got time to do that, of course. But my rule is about, I try and put on LinkedIn certainly 3 posts out a week, and I try and interact with my community on LinkedIn by commenting on other people's posts every day if I can, using the LinkedIn app, just to kind of keep my views and engagements up. And I found that when I haven't done this, the number of visits to my profile has gone down dramatically. So you kind of have to be up. You have to show up on a regular basis.
Bottom line, Tim, is to be natural, be yourself, and be natural for social media.
You're so right. And that's what I try and struggle with doing videos. It's better it really is better just to kind of just talk to your green light on your on your computer like a friend, or just try and imagine your friend or your loved one on the other side, rather than try and be too stilted. And it's not easy when you got when you got no reaction from the other side.
So to close this session, Tim, would you mind sharing with us the future plans of Upperhand Media?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, basically to continue helping, I really want to help more businesses and organisations who are struggling at the moment, and people who also may be facing redundancy. I just want to help them, whether that's through marketing or through training. Like yesterday, my wife's niece said that she's lost her job as a runner on a film set, and I said, well, I can. Have you tried using LinkedIn? I don't think she had actually considered using LinkedIn at that time, or not actively. I think there are opportunities out there, but people just need to be flexible, be creative, and as we've said before, continue building their community up, and also for their businesses as well. Just and to keep sharing value, connecting, and I'm sure things will change. It's definitely not easy, but yeah, for me personally, for Upperhand Digital, I certainly that's why I really get the biggest buzz. Really is helping others and seeing them succeed as well. So I'm looking forward to doing that more as well.
Excellent, Tim.
Well, that's all for today's episode of Voices from Acudemy. Thank you for listening. Tim, it has been the pleasure for both of us, me and Yousouf, to have you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I have to say that if you are looking for new opportunities, get yourself build your knowledge up, and that will really give you I think a really good advantage. So go on lots of these training courses, and there's and you offer some wonderful training courses as well, really useful.